Da 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 da. Welcome to Straight from the Muzzle, folks, where we are anything but straight. My name is Space,
And I'm Star.
and we welcome you to our episode, which is what today?
Everything Star Wars.
This is a special episode just for the fans. It's not specific to a season. It's just a very special May the 4th be with you episode. So super exciting. Star has laid out a quite detailed notes here for us. So we're going to dive right into it because there's a lot to go for. We've got lots to talk about. We've asked a lot of you guys on Twitter a couple of different things. One tweet that no one responded to. Rude.
Wait, which one did we not respond to? Did I miss
Yeah, here, you know what? I'll go to it real quick.
Oh,
It was the do you have a character or persona inspired by Star Wars? If so, we want to see. And then no one responded. But I haven't checked the email, so I guess I can check it while we're talking
that's
about other
true.
things.
Okay. Yeah, because I
But-
don't really get into that until like a little bit later.
Yeah.
So.
Tell everyone your recent obsession as to why you've decided to talk about Star Wars recently, other than the fact that it's May the 4th be with you.
Okay. Well, so other than that, recently there's a little local shop here in Ohio. I don't know if there's other ones in other states and whatnot, but it's called The Exchange. So you can go there and you can get like games and music and movies and all this cool like action figures and stuff. And I have never owned all of the Star Wars films, and I was like, you know what? They're having a special on all of their Star Wars stuff because, May the 4th is coming. And I'm like, you know what? Why not? So I bought everything. I bought the original trilogy. I bought the prequel trilogy. I bought the new trilogy that came out within recent years. I also bought Rogue One. And although I have seen all of the films over the course of my life, I haven't watched them enough, I guess, to become super fan about it. Like I enjoyed them and I liked them, but I've never watched them all in like consecutive order and just sat down and binged watched them all. So also during my watching of all these films, I'm like, oh, I need to get more. So I also now have on the way the Star Wars Clone Wars from Cartoon Network. So I have seasons 1 through 6. You can't get season 7 on DVD yet. It's still on Disney Plus. And also I have, I think, The Mandalorian season 1 and 2 coming to me on DVD through Amazon. And I think I'm getting Solo. I think I also ordered that one. But yeah, I have everything else. So this is my recent obsession.
Well, I mean, you can't get season 7 because it's on Disney Plus, but I mean,
Yeah.
you can. I'm not saying you should, but you can always go to those websites where people, like quote unquote, screen capture it and just buy one of those.
That is true. I may end up doing that, but I have 6 seasons to go through anyway. It's going to be a long time till I actually get to that, but
Yeah.
I like it because it goes in between episode, I think, like 2 and 3. Like the events in between 2 and 3 is like where Clone Wars takes place. So
I never watched the Clone Wars, but I did play Clone Wars on the PC through the Steam game app on my computer. So that was a fun one.
that's cool. I didn't know there was a Clone Wars one on the PC.
What?
I didn't know.
Well, I mean, you play as like a Jedi, but you also play you can play as other characters, but it's still pretty epic. I mean, if I pull it up, I don't want to pull it up though, because I don't want to crash this. I'll pull it up later. But it's really cool. I mean, because you can run around. I mean, you pretty much can just kill anyone you want to, like I usually do. I play both sides, really. I guess you could say I'm probably like a neutral Jedi. I kind of go for whoever has the best offer.
Oh, okay.
and then I'll just switch back and forth or whatever.
It sounds a lot like Star Wars Battlefront, which is what I played as a child, like on the PlayStation 2. We played it all the time with my cousin.
Oh, you know what? That's what I was thinking of. Battlefront. Sorry, I got
Oh,
that mixed
okay.
up.
Never mind then. Then yes, I've played it.
Someone's going to get my head for that. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Battlefront is what I was thinking of.
I actually
Yeah.
earlier today I've heard good and bad things about the remastered version, but I actually just bought the remastered version because it's on sale, so I got it on my PS4. So hooray! I'm gonna be playing that too.
What's the difference?
It's just a remastered version. Some people were saying that it wasn't as good as the original like game for the PlayStation 2, which is the one that I grew up playing, like I said, with my cousin, and we had lots of fun playing it. Like we stayed up all night one night just to play it, and it was pretty fun. But I don't
I
know.
mean, it's like saying getting the remastered version of like Empire Strikes Back from like the VHS to the DVD version. It's like, oh, so the movie's a little bit more crisper. I don't really see why I needed to get the DVD version of it. Which, by the way, I still have Empire Strikes Back on VHS. Ka-ching.
That's
So,
cool. That's a win there.
yeah, it is a win.
Everything I have is on DVD, I think, so
I don't have a VHS player. I know that I have it.
that's okay. That's
Yeah.
you know that you have it. That's all that
Yeah.
matters.
Yeah.
That way you can say I have this on VHS. Wow.
And it's the non remastered version. It's like one of the originals.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of films, so I did a little bit of research. I'm terrible. It's like, so if I mess something up, sorry. But it says that Star Wars Episode 4 came out originally on May 25th, 1977, and the success of the film was incredible. It earning over like 100 million in just 3 months in theaters. So it was massive hit.
Now, from what I understand, the originals episodes 1, 2, and 3, George Lucas did want to produce those, but the budget for those would have been out of his hand. And then also the technology to create those types of films was just not developed at that point yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so he just put it on the back burner. That was like considered a rumor. So I'm not really sure how accurate or true that information is, which is why like I always thought it was weird that episode 4 came out and then 5 and 6 and then all of a sudden 1, 2, and 3 came out later. So if no one's really watched Star Wars and then all of a sudden you thought, oh, well, why 4 come out first? Kind of an odd thing to think about. Look into that because I just thought it was weird at first.
I think you're actually kind of right, or leaning more towards the right.
Yeah.
I guess in that, because I do know that it was, the first 3 episodes to the story were put on the back burner, and it does make sense that because of the technology at the time, we just
Yeah.
didn't have it.
No.
Because I don't think episode 1 came. I think episode 1 came out in 1999, so that's a good chunk difference. I mean, a lot can happen.
Yeah.
In that chunk of time, technology wise. So, and obviously the CGI and everything got way better, within that little time period anyway.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot there's a lot of, I guess, disagreements and controversy about the episodes 1, 2, and 3 though, because a lot of people hate it. I understand why they hate it, but I guess episodes 1, 2, and 3 is kind of the ones that I grew up with as a child. Like those were the ones that I was introduced with, because I remember my mom had a friend that came over and was like, here, let's have the kids watch this, and threw the Phantom Menace in. I was like, oh, this is so cool. And then, so that's what I remember. And then later on I ended up watching like A New Hope, and then Empire Strikes Back, and then whatnot. So later on, and I was like, oh, these are cool too. These are the ones that originally came out. That's why the CGI and everything's a lot different and like a lot less crisp. But that's just what I was introduced to.
I think episode 1 was a good one. It was good. That was like, I remember that one. I liked that one the most. That's when everyone's hatred of Jar Jar Binks started. I didn't really like hate Jar Jar Binks. I didn't really like him either. He's just kind of like one of those characters that just happened to be created, and then everyone hated him.
I,
But
as a child, I enjoyed him, and I think it's because as a child and not knowing I was a furry, I was like, "Oh, a cool creature that talks."
yeah,
Like, cool. And then as an adult, like recently, because I watched, the Phantom Menace the other day, and I was like, oh, he's still cool, like because nostalgia, but like, wow, he got annoying. So
he did. I mean, he got really annoying, but he also was kind of like comic relief. But he was
yeah,
also like super goofy and kind of annoying, like you said. But like, it was just kind of needed. But then as like the episodes kept going, it was just like, okay, can we just move on from this? This is bad.
I mean, I will say he wasn't very prominent in episode 2 and 3. He was
No.
only in there briefly, but he actually became a senator within like the 10-year difference, like
Yeah,
story
that was a
wise.
little shocking.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, a little
whatever.
shocked on that one.
It's fine. Maybe he just matured and got less okie day.
I didn't like episodes 2 and 3, and the reason being is just the one actor, Hayden Christensen. I believe the reason those two particular movies sucked so bad is because of that one actor. He was just awful, and it just sounded like one giant pity party after another between both of those films, and it was
I
just all
agree.
about him and him going through his emotions. It was like he was going through puberty, but unfortunately he was going through puberty for both of those movies, and it just
Yes.
sucked. And
Oh my
I'm sorry, but when you go to the movies, you don't want to watch someone go through their puberty for 3 hours and then go and watch it again for 3 more hours. That's
No,
kind of
you don't want
sucky,
that.
right?
Right.
And it's just so bad. I'd rather watch someone else do that, but like not Hayden Christensen. And then, like to kind of like add insult to injury, if you fast forward into the sequel trilogies, then you have Kylo Ren, who is a good actor, go through puberty. I'm okay with it because at least he
Yeah,
is a good actor.
right. I mean,
So,
he's actually portraying like his thoughts, his emotions
yeah,
in a lot better like way than obviously Anakin was. Because okay, and also honestly, can we talk about how creepy Anakin became like in the second movie? He was
oh yeah,
talking about how much he hates the sand, and he's like, "But not you, you're soft," and like just awkwardly touches Padme. I'm like, dude, that's so creepy.
it is really
Like,
creepy.
oh my god. But
It's just the
yeah,
whole thing was creepy.
it was creepy. I'm also going to point out, like, okay, so Padme in the first episode is only 14, is a freaking queen of Naboo, and straight up like is a badass. Like
Oh,
is
she
just a
totally
badass.
is.
In the second film, is still a badass 10 years later. And she
Yeah,
even says, "Hey, let's go save Obi-Wan." And Anakin says, "Oh no, we shouldn't do that." And she's like, "Well, fine, I'm going to, whether you like it or not," and goes to save
and does
Obi-Wan.
it.
However, in the third film, it pissed me off because she's like, "Help, I'm married and pregnant. I'm helpless." And I'm like, I
I
can't.
can't do it.
I'm like, oh my god. Like, no. Like, come on, you were a freaking senator slash ambassador. I'm like, you were a freaking queen at the age of 14. I'm like, and all of a sudden, help, I'm pregnant and I can't. It's
It
just,
just
oh
seems
my
like
god.
I could still see her like fighting people while still pregnant. Be like, don't you dare try to kick me while there's a baby in this belly.
That's
Don't even
right.
think about it. Like
Don't even.
I could see that attitude coming out of her, but
Right.
like you said, it's like, no, please don't.
Please don't
Just
help. I'm
stop.
pregnant. No.
Anakin, stop, please.
Yep. I
Like,
can't. Oh my god. Like, what? Like,
no,
you should have bitch slapped him.
I
Like,
really
what is
wanted
wrong with
to.
you?
Uh,
Oh
but
my
I think
gosh.
one of the other controversial things too, which I thought was really unnecessary, especially if a kid was watching this, was when Anakin walked into the temple and went and slaughtered all the kids
Oh
with
my
the
god.
lightsaber.
Okay.
I don't
Bless.
think that was necessary
It
to
wasn't. No.
No one's. I mean, we didn't see anything, but it was
It's the
the
implication of.
yeah, the implication of that right there didn't necessarily need to be seen in the movie per se.
I will
There's other
say,
ways to go about that.
well, yeah, I mean, I will say, like, for movies, especially, it is kind of a bold move. Now, what I'm gonna kind of branch off into a different film example. I know that, like, the times have changed and whatnot, but if you look at the movie It, like, a child gets his arm ripped off, like, whereas that's a lot more graphic. I mean, at least to give Star Wars a little bit of a credit, they made the implication of it didn't show him actually killing the younglings.
Oh,
So
true, true.
I mean, so that's nice. I will say credit to whoever that little tiny child actor was, because he's like, Master Skywalker, he's like, the city's on fire, what do we do? And he just straight up unsheaths his lightsaber, and this child jumps, and he has this oh shit look on his face.
Yeah,
It's like
like
just
straight up,
awful. Like,
straight up.
it's very heartbreaking.
It really is.
It definitely gave the whole effect. Like, I understand why they did it, I get it, but like, well, that's awful.
It kind of makes you wonder, like at that point, I almost wondered, like, because all the Star Wars movies were pretty much PG, like
Mm-hmm.
rated. To kind of branch off again to another movie that's not related to this, but we had talked about this before the recording. Um, have you ever thought and wondered why Lord of the Rings was never rated R? Because of all the murders that happened in
Because
every single the movie. I
yeah,
mean, people were decapitated, they were like shot, they were arrowed, blood is like running down their freaking
that's
bodies.
true.
I mean, all of that going on, and they're just PG-13. Like, what?
I don't know.
And I mean, and if you go back into like Star Wars, okay, pretty much the same thing is happening here.
Well,
Okay, people
yeah,
are being shot and they're being killed, but like, again, it's PG. So I'm just like,
yeah.
what? Where are the standards here? I
I mean,
don't get
people
it.
are getting cut in half. Their arms are getting chopped off. Their hands are chopped off. Like,
Children are being killed, but you don't see it. It's just like,
Anakin
what?
burns in, freaking the fires of lava.
That was pretty awesome, though.
Yeah.
I was like, yes.
Like, you deserved it, you little prick. Like,
I was really excited for that one.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So
But I do. So as far as like episodes 1, 2, and 3, not the biggest fans. I really loved 4, 5, and 6. Those are the classics. We'll always love those. The trilogy sequel, though, that was a weird one because I feel like The Force Awakens was literally just A New Hope over again.
honestly, I got that same feel because I just finished that one yesterday. And
Yeah.
like I said, I'm almost like all the way through like the eighth one. So I haven't seen 9 yet, so I don't know what happens. But yeah, it was basically A New Hope, like all over again. That's like, okay, so we're just taking what you had originally and changing it up a little bit, washing it out and then
Yeah.
hanging it back up. And it's like, that's it.
It's
So,
exactly. And I felt like we kind of got rained on it because we were all expecting like a new storyline. I mean, this is J.J. Abrams who is writing this story. We're expecting something completely new, and we get slapped with a New Hope storyline in our face. And it's like, oh, well, this sucks. What?
like, it wasn't like terrible, but I don't know. It kind of also doesn't make too much sense because
Yeah.
at the end of what is it? Return of the Jedi. So at the end of that one, so the Empire was gone, like,
Yeah.
or at least there was like small remnants of like Empire gone, like, and I understand that in The Force Awakens, it's like, hey, here's the new First Order that's basically has the same principles of the damn Empire. It's like,
Yeah.
well, also, where did Snoke come from?
Yeah.
It's
Where was
not
he
explained.
before?
I don't know.
Yeah.
He wasn't like anywhere mentioned. He just was kind of like, bam, there he is. And I was like, oh, he's creepy looking. And I'm like, all right, cool. But what's his backstory? Where does he come from? And actually, I just watched him be chopped in half So I'm actually a little bit after that part. So I have like about half hour, 40 minutes left to go in the film. But that's where I left off, and I'm like, what? I'm like, hold on, how can they have a whole other movie? I'm like, if the main like bad guy just got ripped in half, I'm like, okay.
And it makes no sense whatsoever.
It
And the other
doesn't.
crazy thing too is if you were to go to a library and you were to look up Star Wars books, there's like several aisles full of Star Wars books, but they're by
Mhm.
different authors, and they all have like the logo and they all have like a like affiliation with Star Wars, but they're not part of the storyline. And who knows if Snoke was ever referenced in one of those? We don't know. Like so,
That's true.
there's hundreds of books out there with hundreds of different like storylines and branches, and it just like there's too many possibilities. I have no idea where Snoke even came from. Like you said, where did that guy come from?
I
Because he
don't
seems
know.
pretty freaking old.
He seems really old.
Yeah,
He seems kind of effed up because if you've seen his face, he's all
yeah,
deformed and crap. But it's
that
like,
guy be
where
old.
did he come from? Like, what? And I will say, like in the Force Awakens, is like he did have like a very menacing like presence there because you see him like in this huge like shadowed room or whatever. I mean, it's I know it's a hologram, but it's like, oh, this is a big bad threat right here. And then here in the second film, like almost towards the end of the movie, he's like, oh, I'm dead now, and it's like, what? So I don't know. I need to know what happens in the ninth film. So, but
I
I'll
guess you
wait.
can I guess you can like look up Snoke on like you can Google like
I'm gonna do
where he
that.
came from and stuff. It looks like he was genetically engineered on the hidden Sith planet of Exegol
Okay.
by Darth Sidious and a few other people.
See, if they would have explained that, that would have
But
been
then like
great.
the thing is like there's not enough time to like really delve into that. So you kind of just have to like pick and choose your battles on who you're going to actually delve into and why and blah blah blah. So it just whatever. Oh, let me think about this. So I did like the rest of the movies. They were really good. They had really good storylines. And I can't remember if it was The Last Jedi or if it was Rogue One, but it was the way that the movie opened because normally the movies open with like the title going
Mm-hmm.
like with the Star Wars, and then you got like the reading of everything. But this one just literally was like dun and then like you're like straight into the action, and I'm like, what is this? And
Oh, it's
so
probably
like I
really
was like,
good
oh,
then.
I love this. And I talked to a lot of my friends and they're like, I hated it. I'm like, what are you talking about? This was like this totally came out of left field. Didn't see it coming, and it was action packed from the very beginning to the very end. Like, how could you not love that?
I need to
So
rewatch it then because I've only ever seen it one time.
and
Like,
I can't remember if it was I can't remember if it was the Last Jedi, if it was Rogue One. I think it was Rogue One, but I could be wrong on that one.
it's
But
probably Rogue One.
I think it's probably Rogue One. But it was so good, and I think the reason why a lot of my friends didn't like it is because it trailed away from classic like Star Wars tradition. And but that's the thing is like um with J.J. Abrams taking over and no longer having George Lucas be involved with the Star Wars, trilogy and
Mm-hmm.
everything, there needs to be a time where a new storyline and a new fresh take needs to take place so that more creation can be made. Yes, tradition is great, but so is having fresh blood and a fresh point of view on things.
Yeah, having a fresh
So,
perspective on things.
because if you always consistently have just the same thing over and over and over again, it gets boring after a while.
It
And
does.
you see that. You already saw it with The Force Awakens with A New Hope again. That was the same tradition right there.
Mm-hmm.
Then they broke that tradition and kind of just did their own thing with the next couple of episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so thankful that they did that because it just started to finally get better and better and better and better.
I
So,
agree. I definitely
thank
agree.
goodness.
Sometimes you do have to break away a little bit, and kind of express a little bit different side. It's the same story, you just have to express it from a different view, I guess.
It is. And it's still Star Wars, okay? And you're still going to
Yeah,
have your older generation, and then you're going to have a new generation. And that's good. We still need to have a good old generation to always be there, but we also need to have a new generation to have something to look forward to in the future. And that's where the new generation comes in. We need to have newer,
exactly.
fresh things to keep going. Let go of the past to look forward to the future.
That's right. I agree. I will touch up on Star Wars Clone Wars a little bit because I know that's a huge thing, like especially within like Star Wars fans. Like I said, I haven't seen it at all. Like really, I remember seeing snippets of it like as a child, but I didn't have a whole lot of TV growing up. I just didn't like my grandma had like TV over at her house, so I would go over and like watch cartoons or whatever there, and it would be on once in a while. So I like watch it. Just because, like I said, as a child, I was like, "Oh, Star Wars is cool. I'll watch it," but I don't remember a whole lot. But anybody that I've ever talked to that has sat down and actually watched the series, it is highly acclaimed. Like they love it. They highly recommend it. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I've now, like I said, I've added it to my collection and I plan to watch it. But as I said, it has 7 seasons so far. It takes place between a time period of episode 2 and 3. It had originally aired in 2008. So like I was, how old was I? That was, I don't know. I was young. It is actually a 3D animated reboot of a 2D animated series that didn't do too well. It was under this like similar or same title. It went from 2003 to 2005. And like I said, the season 7 of this one aired recently on Disney Plus in 2020. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the last, like, I guess the season 7 leads all the way up to Anakin becoming Vader and Palpatine enacting Order 66. So I think that's where it leads off. But yeah, definitely.
I was looking and I was seeing if Disney owns the Cartoon Network because I was wondering how they obtained the Clone Wars, and I think they do.
I think they just bought it out because technically I think Disney owns like the Star Wars label now, so now they own Star Wars Clone Wars, even though it had originally, because I know seasons 1 through 5 was on Cartoon Network. Season 6 was actually aired on Netflix, and then Disney took it and then said, "Yo, we're putting it straight to Disney Plus," and that's where it is now.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then
dang, that's insane.
Yeah, like a lot of people like it. I'm like, oh, it looks really good, and I like that it delves more into Star Wars lore, so it's not all just like a lot of action and stuff. Of course, there's action, and like that is great, that's awesome. But I like that it seems to delve more into like what happened during those time periods and during like the actual Clone Wars and whatnot. So I think it's gonna be good. Also, something else that's on Disney Plus is The Mandalorian, and that came out and it was a huge bang of like a success.
I'm not gonna lie, Mandalorian sounds very similar to a Mandarin, and so when I first came out, I'm like, oh, did they come out with a new like orange? So I was just like, oh, cool. No, and then I'm like, oh, it's a Star Wars thing. Okay, never mind.
Oh no.
Oh dear.
Okay. That's a wrap. No, I'm kidding. No. But no, The Mandalorian, I actually have a really good friend of mine that loves it. Like she is all into it. She's made her own like Mando OC and has made armor and stuff, and goes and cosplays as her Mandalorian. And I was like, dang. So, and it only came out 2 years ago, so in 2019, and unfortunately, it became really a big success with the whole Baby Yoda thing. So,
oh, Baby Yoda, that thing.
My aunt is obsessed with it.
I don't understand what's so amazing about Baby Yoda.
Cute? Question mark. Although I don't really see how cute it is. Don't hate me, anybody.
I mean, he's cute, but like,
yes. but like,
It's just Yoda. I mean, you realize that
I
it's going to
mean,
become Yoda, who's going to have a boatload of ugly ass wrinkles at some point.
it's actually not Yoda. It's actually just Yoda's species, and this is
Well,
why
I mean,
yeah,
yeah.
it does become old and wrinkly. I mean, we all do, unfortunately. So
I know it's not Yoda, but it's going to become a Yoda,
it could
basically.
become a Yoda. Whatever the heck
Yeah.
Yoda is, that's what it's going to become.
And
Um,
it's ironically also a Jedi somewhat because it has like powers.
it uses the Force.
Yeah. Where
So
did it get the Force from? That's an interesting question.
I mean, see,
Is it
I
just
feel
born in that species?
and not. I mean, I guess okay. Hold on, I gotta think about this, but because I guess you could say maybe certain species have like a better affinity towards being able to use the Force, and maybe whatever species Yoda is, he's more. Yeah, it just has a stronger connection, maybe. So I mean, I guess think about it this way. So if you go to study and be a monk, you're going to be more attuned to like a certain religion or something than say somebody just off the street, usually. So you're just going to be more
Hmm.
attuned to something. Um, I actually will. I'll bring up that in a little bit because something's not sitting well with me with the Jedi Order, but it just really doesn't sit well with me. Um, but I guess to go back on the Mandalorian, the timeline where it is set, it's set after the fall of the Empire and just before the emergence of the First Order. So it's literally right in between movies 6 and 7. So it's right in between there.
Yeah.
But yeah, just tells a story about a lone bounty hunter that just so happens to be a Mandalorian.
Yep.
So he just gets in, with this baby Yoda creature. It's like, oh, okay, I have to protect this child because somehow he's important to the story.
I will say this about the Mandalorian. So I haven't really watched any of like an episode fully. I know that Felix has watched like the first season. Um and then I've kind of like watched here and there when I've like sat down to eat something. And
Mhm.
so I have this thing. This is just me in general when it comes to like here's like a little kinkiness about me. Okay, and it's don't worry, it's safe for work. I won't go like naughtiness here. I have a thing for like masks and helmets. I don't like I kind of get turned on by not knowing who's under the mask or under the helmet, and I like that. And so
Ooh.
yeah, there's some sort of like it's the mystery of not knowing who's there. So stormtroopers and Darth Vader and all that fun stuff because it's exciting.
Yeah.
But the Mandalorian takes off his helmet in one of the episodes, and I'm just like, nope, I'm done. I'm not watching this anymore. I can't. It has ruined it for me. The magic has been ruined. Sorry. So I, ever since then, I just don't care about that stupid show now.
Oh,
It is done.
it's kind of like the same when like your favorite fursuiter takes off their head, and it's like,
Yeah,
oh,
it's exactly like that.
like,
It is exactly like that.
like I get it, but I mean,
You
like, come
ruined
on,
it for me. Thank you.
don't ruin. I mean,
Anyways,
please take off your fursuit head and or mask, like if you get too hot or if it's an
obviously, I
emergency.
mean,
Like,
yeah.
please do that.
But if you
Don't.
ever like, if you're at a convention and all of a sudden you hear this, ah, you just know that you've ruined it for me.
Oh no.
Just know.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
No. That there we go. That's how I know if you're at a convention or not. I'll just hear in the distance, oh man. And I'll
Oh,
be like,
space
oh,
is here.
oh, there's space. It runs over.
Hey, we're at the same convention.
Be like, hey, I heard your cries of disappointment.
I thought I'd come over and say hi.
I've come to comfort you in this, awful time.
That
You need a tissue. Like, here.
would be awesome, actually.
Like, here you go. I feel like I'm really tiny against like compared to you and Bean because I'm only 5'3".
Oh, Beans, I think Beans like 5'5". I
Well,
think
let's
Bean's like the
still.
same height as Felix. I am pretty tall though.
I'm just I'm a very small person. So,
Yeah. Something wrong with that. I wish I
oh,
was small.
thanks. I wish I was taller. So
Trust me, you don't.
I mean, at least like a little bit taller. But
Then you
oh
got
well.
responsibilities, and people ask you for things. Like, can you reach that thing on the top of the shelf? No. And you walk
No,
away.
that's so rude.
I know I don't. I actually do grab things for people.
Oh, see, I try. So like, if a little old lady comes up, oh, can you get this for me? And I'm like, yeah. And then I just scale the whole thing. I just climb up and I reach and grab the thing. So
Here you
I
go,
try.
ma'am.
Here you go, ma'am. I've scaled the tallest shelf.
And I crossed the 7 seas for you. No, I'm just kidding.
7 seas of the mopped floor.
All to get your denture cream or your denture
Ew.
stuffing.
God.
Top shelf.
Listen, I don't want dentures. Ew.
Neither do I. I don't want them to fall out. It'd be gross.
Gross.
Anyways, back to the show. Where are we?
I was gonna touch briefly on the games, but we already kind of touched up on them earlier, I guess.
Oh, we'll go ahead and talk about the games. There's different games.
That's true. Okay, so like I said, I as a child played Star Wars Battlefront 2 with my cousin on the PlayStation 2. So if you haven't played it, I recommend doing it on the PlayStation 2. I haven't played the remastered version yet, so the verdict is still out on that one. Pod Racer, I remember that being, I think, on the N64, but that one
was a hard game.
That one was hard because it legitimately was so fast.
Yeah, it was.
So you really had to have, Jedi-like reflexes. Fallen Order, I think, is the newest one that came out, if I remember correctly, and that one looks really, really good, and I've heard lots of good things about it. There's a few other ones that I've heard as well, in my recent research and, of course, recent interest. So games that came out, like, for, like, the original Xbox and whatnot, so, like, the Jedi Academy and, like, there's a couple other ones, too, but some that came out for the Xbox 360 were, like, The Force Unleashed 2, also, there's been some cameo ones that were in like Soul Calibur games and whatnot. So those ones are kind of cool because I feel like you can do some character creation and actually make your own like Jedi. So that was kind of cool, or Sith Lord.
I'm surprised there hasn't been a Star Wars figure introduced in the what is it called? The what is that game where everyone hits each other and battles each other and eventually get knocked off the platform or whatever on Nintendo? Everyone's like so into it when it comes out every year, even though it's the same game.
Oh, she may have burped. Isn't it like Fall Guys or something?
No. Oh, it's gonna drive me nuts.
Hold on, wait. Were they knocking each other
They
off
got
the
like
platform?
they have different they have famous characters. So they got like Link, you got Kirby, you've got
Oh
Mario.
my god! Okay, I'm sorry.
You got Zelda.
It's freaking Smash Brothers.
Yeah, Smash Brothers. So I'm surprised they don't have like a Jedi on Smash Brothers yet.
That's actually shocking that they.
Yeah.
They not? Am I like?
I mean, they got a freaking laser sword on there. Why don't they have a freaking Jedi on there?
That's true. They probably just don't have the licensing for it, especially now that Disney has it.
That would be epic if they did.
That would be really cool. But I mean, something that's kind of in some shape or form similar. I mean, Smash is just a big fighting game. But like I said, games like Soul Calibur, they have like little cameos because I know you can be Yoda in one of them. I don't remember which one. I think it's like 5 or something.
Huh.
But it was kind of cool. I think that's the one that I had a couple years ago, and I was like, I got Yoda! Oh, I was really excited about it. We kind of talked about Disney's takeover a little bit.
What they haven't taken over.
That's what they haven't taken over. I mean, I guess Disney's takeover, like, within the Star Wars, universe and whatnot.
Everything.
They've got it all.
They really do. They've have
collected everything.
They have. And then, of course, there's what they have as far as, like, pop culture goes. So their impact on the fandom and the conventions, fan fictions, character creations. So we did ask you guys, do you have any characters that are Star Wars themed. And of course, no one responded to that. And I even checked the email and no one responded.
Oh, that's
Um,
okay.
However, I do have one that my character has one actually. But it came from from an artist named Bricks, and I haven't been able to find the artist since then. But they draw the characters very like thin, and it's very technical, but it's very edgy looking, very futuristic. My character does have like a lightsaber, but it's a dual lightsaber. His cloak is torn. He looks very like badass, and he's got cybernetic enhancements of sorts. So I really like it. It's really really cool looking and everything.
It does seem very Star Warsy too, because I mean, you
And
can be different species, so it
oh
makes
yeah,
sense.
and he's got tons of this kind of stuff on his account. So I'll link his account um, in the information so you guys can go take a look because I definitely recommend it. And if anyone can find him just in general, if he exists on Twitter, please let me know because I have to find him again. That's what I've been able to find. I did try to search on for Affinity Star Wars. I just typed in Star Wars as a search,
Hmm.
and majority of the things that pulled up was porn.
Oh,
Um,
lovely.
so I put my SFW filter on, and then it was just a bunch of like fan art of just drawing Princess Leia.
Oh my god.
So but it was, and then like every here and there was like maybe a persona, in like Jedi cloaks and a lightsaber, but that was about it. Like nothing too like specific, nothing that was like that caught my eye that was different. So
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, I'm kind of bummed on you guys. I was expecting something.
I mean, you
Whatever.
would think that like a fandom, especially like the furry fandom, that's usually inspired by other fandoms and whatnot,
Yeah,
would come up with something. Like, where are all the Star Wars furs? Where are you?
I know they're out there. They're just kind of like
They're
in
in a
their own
galaxy
world.
far, far away.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, whatever.
Whatever. Stay there. It's fine. So we were talking about pop culture conventions, stuff like cosplay, lightsaber duels. Those are fun because there's actually like little tournaments and whatnot like throughout the world. I don't know how common they are like here in the US. I mean, at least I've never heard of any like in my local area, but people do get into it, and I've seen a couple videos recently and I'm like, I want to do that, but honestly, dueling lightsabers are so expensive. I think the cheapest one that I found was like $170.
Let me see. Lightsaber duels.
I know they're big in Australia. The Aussies like to
Like
lightsabers.
competitions.
Yep.
Oh wow, they're actual competitions.
I think it's cool. Like I said, they actually have like ranked duels, like across the globe. I think it's cool.
Oh, so it's okay. So it's just fencing.
Yeah, it's just fencing, but with lightsabers, so it's
Ha!
cooler.
That is insane. Oh, I like how the referee kind of has like his own lightsaber. Oh, it's cute. It's like a little baton.
Yeah.
I'm the referee, but no one cares about me.
Yep. My lightsaber is small. Obviously, cosplay is huge. Uh, Within Comic Cons, like especially for Star Wars, and unfortunately, everybody's got to dress as a slave Leia because
Of
why?
course, everyone's got to dress up as a slut.
That's right. Everybody's got to be a hoe eventually.
Yep.
So,
And what better way to do it than as Leia? That's
yeah,
like the entry point is a Leia. Pretty much.
pretty much. Oh my goodness. We also have already talked about personas and characters based off of Star Wars, the Star Wars universe. Again, not a whole lot of people commented, but they are out there, so yay for that.
I did find a video, and I'm gonna link it in the information. Um, Ace Ace does have a video that talks about 10 fantastic furry Star Wars species, and he lists a
What?
bunch of different ones. So it's from a much earlier video that he had done about a year or two
I was
ago.
gonna say, I
So
don't think I've seen that one.
I'll put that in the link so you guys can watch that, and I'll link that to you so you can watch it later.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that would be kind of a cool thing to look at as well.
Cool. I will definitely look into that as well.
Let's talk about the different sides of the Force, the three major ones: the Jedi, the Sith, and the Gray. I wish you had seen how I just did that at home. It was really stupid.
I can just see you making the hand motions. Just,
It was really bad.
I could just imagine it. Just the
I'm
Jedi.
holding my hands like, just do like the okay, like
Oh
the
no,
okay symbol, or like the stupid like, like the stupid like symbol that people do that like.
to prank, but yeah, they're
Yeah,
like,
so do
oh,
that. So I'm like doing the Jedi. So I did the Jedi. I held both hands up like that. The
the
Jedi.
Jedi.
The Sith, and I did like I crossed my hands with the Sith, and then for whatever reason, I like combined both of them in like this weird like yoga pose. That's Gray.
Look out! Look out! We're
I don't
doing
know. I
yoga
think
poses now.
if I can, I'll try to get it on video so you can see what it looks like.
Gang
It's so
signs.
stupid.
Oh
So,
my god.
let's go over those. You laid these out, so let's go ahead and have you kind of talk about what the differences between the three are.
Okay, so I kind of laid them out a little bit, as I kind of found them more outlined, obviously, through like Wikipedia and like Google and whatnot, because they don't necessarily directly say it, as far as I know, in the films, but like the codes, I guess, quote unquote, are more mentioned in like other sources of media. So like I don't know if they're mentioned in the Clone Wars or whatnot. They might be. They are also mentioned in like the books, and I know in the games they're also mentioned, because I think the Gray Code comes out of one of the games. I can't remember which one it was, but I had read it come from somewhere. But so the Jedi Code, and this is like I said, I'll get to where like eventually I'll get to where like I have a problem with the Jedi, because
I already have a
I
problem with most of it,
oh I just
with most of the code.
Oh, okay. Because okay, so for the Jedi Code, it says there is no emotion, there is peace, there is no ignorance, there is knowledge, there is no passion, there is serenity, there is no chaos, there is harmony, there is no death, there is the Force. So basically, what it's saying is like
You
it's so
purge your
hard.
emotions,
Yeah,
so
you
you only
just
have
don't.
peace.
Yeah, don't show any sort of emotions, and it's why like a lot of like, especially when I guess in episodes 1, 2, and 3, they were trying to tell Anakin, control yourself, search your feelings, and don't show certain emotions because they will lead to quote unquote the dark side. And that's kind of where I have a problem. You know what? I'm going to dive into it because why
I
not?
think you should,
I'm
because
going to.
I think it's controversial, because like you think
It
about it,
is.
like what. So to have passion, that's a bad thing.
And like okay, so here's where I have the biggest problem with the Jedi. The Jedi are depicted as like, the protectors, the bringers of like light and and good and whatnot. But they also really think about this, really think about it, because they also take children from an extremely young age and tell them, nope, you can't have any, relationships like at all. Like you can build like friendships, but don't get attached, because you can't, because like you have to realize that death is inevitable, and you can't do anything about it. So you just have to be void of all emotion for it. And it's actually why the Jedi Order did not want to train Anakin, because they deemed him to be too old. He was only 9, and if 9
Yeah.
is too old, like what? So like
That it doesn't make sense. It just seems a little weird.
that's what the Jedi do. They take children from a young age that just so happen to have a certain midi-chlorian account in their system, like their way of the Force, and they're like, okay, cool, let's take them and brainwash them into only thinking one way and only studying the one side of the Force, and that's it. Like, and it's also like you don't even have like a guarantee on whether you're not going to become like a Jedi or not, because you still have to pass all of the trials like to become a Jedi master. So
But and then the
Like,
other also you have to also think that too, like the Jedi itself is a secret society, and
it
the
is.
fact that they're not supposed to hold any sort of relationships. Well, don't they all have a relationship with each other as friends, as the council? I mean, they have to have a type of relationship with each other. You don't just have a not relationship with them.
Right.
You don't call it a business relationship. That's still a type of relationship.
Right.
So,
It's
what is
basically
that?
a religious cult is what it is. Like, and
It
that's
just doesn't. Yeah, it's just it makes no sense. And there is no ignorance, there is knowledge. Like, what's wrong with ignorance? Like, you don't. I know it's like I know it's like the Jedi code. I know it's not real, but it still feels personal. Like,
it
there's no
does.
emotion, there is peace. Well, you can't have peace without emotion. That's the thing.
I mean, okay, so I did read a little bit more because it's like you can have like emotions, so you can show like love in but in the form of like compassion, like understanding, and like put that through into protection, but you can't like have a passion for say somebody. So that's why Anakin and Padme's, relationship was completely and totally secret, or they tried to, because because he would have been completely taken off the Jedi Order, like everything. Because it was just a big no-no, because they thought, if you have attachments, then that leads to the dark side, because you're just I don't know how to really like it just somehow it leads to the dark side, because you're like, nope, you're
Yeah,
gonna have attachments, and like you're gonna get angry because you've lost this person, or you can't protect this person. So yeah.
but that's the thing though. Like, what's wrong with getting angry though? Because with anger, you can also learn to control anger, and by learning how to control anger, you then become stronger.
I agree. I
So that
mean,
part of yourself then once again makes you more dominant than the Jedi. So I wonder if the Jedi knows that, if they know that you can, if you can control, like if you can become angry and then control that and become stronger, I wonder if they know that so that they can stop people from gaining that particular type of knowledge. That's where the Sith comes in.
I do agree, because if you really think about it, the Sith are not necessarily all that
Bad.
bad. And I will say,
No.
you can watch the films. 9 times out of 10, either the Rebels or the Jedi, they will always make the first move. If you seriously sit down and watch it, especially watch like rewatch the Phantom Menace sometime, and watch the interaction between Darth Maul, Obi-Wan, and Qui-Gon Jinn. So like watch the interaction, because Obi-Wan attacks first, like straight up. The way that Darth Maul puts his lightsaber out, his dual lightsaber, he's putting it in a defensive like
Mode.
mode. He's putting it in a defensive stance, saying, "Yo, I'm not making the first move. They make the first move all the time." Like, so
Yeah.
like, I mean, are the Sith really that bad? Like, I don't personally, I don't know. I don't think so. And a lot of people are going to probably be like, "Oh, but what about Order 66 and one?" Okay, well, if you're going to get rid of like a whole ideology of completely brainwashing children, you have to start where that happens. So,
Well, and here's the big question here. Isn't the Jedi responsible for the Sith existing?
yeah.
Because if they're the reason why, if they thought that Anakin shouldn't be part of the Jedi because he's too old, and Anakin technically has the Force,
Hmm.
and someone else were to pick him up at some point, and he didn't get trained in the Jedi like stuff, and he then eventually goes to the Sith anyways because that's where he was going at that point. They're the reason.
Right.
So they're initially driving people to that particular force anyways. So
Hmm.
it's kind of like they're creating a force so that they can have their side anyways.
Exactly. Okay, so the Sith code, what that had said, like I said, what I found, says peace is a lie, which that's true. So it says peace is a lie. There is only passion. Through passion, I gain strength. Through strength, I gain power. Through power, I gain victory. And through victory, my chains are broken. The force shall set me free.
I mean, they're not lying.
No, they're not lying. That's why, like,
Yeah.
they're actually right because, I mean, why shouldn't you be free to, pursue your own passions? I understand that you can become like so overwhelmed, like with power and so power greedy and and whatnot. I get that, but
Yeah.
also, I mean, Palpatine was right when he said, that he had studied both sides of the Force, both light and dark. He says you have to understand what something is from both sides. So he was kind of right. I mean, I
Yeah.
know that he pushed Anakin over the edge and made him quote unquote go to the dark side, but it kind of also made Anakin realize the Jedi are kind of pretty shitty. Like they're kind of
Yeah.
shitty. So they just they just are just the way that they do things. Like I said, and they just take children from a young age and just indoctrinate them to believe one thing and one thing only. And then once they get older, they may realize, hey, something's not right here. And I think that's what Anakin kind of realizes. It's like, well, why can't I search for, a power that could help, Padme, the woman that he loves. So
Now, there are also faults through the Sith code here. Peace is a lie, technically true, but also not true.
mm-hmm.
Kind of have to have peace. You kind of have to have chaos. There's only passion, and through passion you gain strength. That's true. But through strength you can gain power. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
And with power you can gain victory. But with victory, you don't necessarily gain, you're not always free with victory. Sometimes you fail with victory, and that happens quite often. And so, victory
It
doesn't
does.
always mean that your chains are broken. Victory doesn't always mean that you're free. And that doesn't always mean that things are going to be better. And so, I kind of feel like those last few lines right there are in fault in itself. And
Mm-hmm.
so, it doesn't really make sense there. So, at that point, the Sith code at that part kind of falls apart and it's a lie.
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
Which brings us to
Two.
the gray code.
Which kind of ties it all together, which is perfect.
Right. And I like it because it does say the gray code, so it really is just that gray area between
Yeah.
light and dark. So the gray code says there is no light without the dark. Through passion I gain focus, through knowledge I gain power, through serenity I gain strength, through victory I gain harmony. There is only the force.
So there's yin and there's yang.
Yes.
And that's how they work together.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how the world works. That's just how life works. And that's what I like about the gray code. That is a code that makes sense. So, and that's where Rey is kind of like that force of turmoil right there, because it's kind of like she doesn't necessarily fit in the dark side or the light side. She's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like in the weird in between kind of like thing. And that's kind of cool because they never talk about the gray code in any of the other movies except for the later movies. So I
Yeah.
believe what 7, 8, and then they really touch on it in 9,
Okay,
which
cool.
you
I
haven't
can't wait to
seen yet. So
nope.
you'll really get to fully see it in 9.
Oh, I'm excited then.
Yeah.
So, but I have gained that sort of like I guess inclination and feel with Ray is that like she's not quite all the way good and she's definitely not all the way bad because when she's training with Luke, he even points out like, "Oh my gosh, you just, you gave in to the sudden dark, that was in there." And she's like, "Well, so what?" Like it happens because there's both light and dark to everything.
Yeah. And here's the thing. The gray code, the cool thing about the gray code is you're utilizing both sides of the force. You're utilizing
Mm-hmm.
the light side and the dark side. So you're using both strengths at the same time. And ultimately, the gray code is the most powerful code. Neither of the other two, just the gray. So that's the irony is that the Jedi and the Sith will never be powerful enough to dominate the gray code because the gray code can see both of those
It seems
and
like
can
a
take,
balance.
yeah, it's a perfect balance between the two, but can also can like it's just perfect. It's just
Yeah.
like you said, a perfect balance. They're basically a bounty hunter. That's basically what they are. The bounty
Basically.
hunters of the Force. That's
They're just the
basically.
moms of the Force. They just come in and, tell their kids to freaking behave.
Yeah,
They
pretty
just
much.
come in.
Yep.
They're like, what the heck? Like, you're unbalanced, you're a bitch, you're also a bitch, just behave yourself.
Yep. Now let's go into the key characters and their views of the Force. And I noticed you didn't put one particular person
I was making
in
a
the
bunch of
notes.
notes. Which one did I not put?
You didn't put the guy that was blind in one of the movies.
Oh, which guy was that?
Oh, let me think
Oh
about it.
no.
Go ahead and start listing them off, and I'll bring him up. I'll go search for him real quick.
Okay, I mean, I just kind of listed some of like the more popular ones. So I listed Palpatine, I listed like Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, like Anakin, and like Han Solo, because those ones kind of like I feel they kind of voice their opinions a little bit more. With Palpatine, like I said, he had studied both sides of the Force, yet he leaned more towards, I guess, the darker side of the Force. So he leaned more towards that because he ended up becoming Darth Sidious, and obviously he became the Emperor and whatnot. So he just kind of ended up being real bad. So, Anakin, I feel, kind of was more towards the light, but was drawn more towards the dark. I guess in the end, when he realized, hey, this side's obviously more powerful and can get me better somewhere, because the Jedi just honestly they just didn't respect him enough. Um oh, okay, I see what the notes you're putting down there. So Rogue One I've only ever seen once, so that's probably why I didn't mention that one. So I'll let you touch up on that one.
Yeah.
Qui-Gon, I've heard that he's more or less of a gray Jedi because he often just disputed issues and whatnot, like with the Jedi Order, and often like disagreed with a lot of what they said, because all of them had agreed, no, we don't want to train Anakin, but he says no, and this is why, even though he is 9 years old, he's like, I will train him myself if I have to. Um, I feel Obi-Wan was leaned more towards the light side. He was very, this is how it is. This is the way the Order wants to do it. You should follow, this, these rules and whatnot. Um, so I feel he leaned more towards the lighter side. Han Solo, I remember in the in A New Hope, he had actually said something along the lines of it was just basically all bullshit. So he didn't really believe too much in the Force. I will say, as like later on in the films, he kind of was like, oh, this is like a real actual thing. Like, it is kind of like a thing that really does surround us and makes everything work, I suppose. I do know that in the newer films, as we get uh, older Han Solo, obviously he's more attuned with the Force. He's like, okay, this is like a legitimate thing, and just kind of believes it in it more. He knows that there's a lighter side, there's a darker side, and I feel he knows that there's like a little gray area there. But he just doesn't really say it too much. But I do know in the original films is like, he's like, this is bullshit.
Is that it?
That's it. You can go ahead with the blind monk now.
So the blind monk, this particular character isn't a Jedi per se. I guess you really couldn't call him. He's not a Jedi, but he uses the Force in a different specific way. So he is considered a guardian of the wills, also known as the guardians of the Kyber Temple, aka Kyber crystals. Does that ring a bell?
Yes, Kyber.
Yes.
Actually, Rogue One is the first film to actually mention Kyber crystals. But go
Yep.
ahead.
So he's a monk that's pretty much he's a guardian of that stuff. So he pretty much in that film Rogue One, he talks a lot about I am one with the Force and the Force is with me, and he repeats it often a lot. But he's pretty much one with the Force. Now he never talks about being a Jedi. He never talks about being like with the Sith or anything else. He just talks about being one with the Force, and he seems to be able to navigate himself around specific like objects without having any sort of opposing anything, which is really interesting. And so I kind of wanted to put that in the key characters and the views of the Force because it's not necessarily, the gray, the Sith, or the Jedi code. I wouldn't know. I don't even know if he would be part of the gray code, really. He's just, yeah, they're just using like an old religious like tradition and then, of course, like belief. And he uses the Force in a way for him to kind of like, I guess, to protect and to work with and through life. So I
Mhm.
don't know. They say that he's not particularly, I guess you could say, someone who is like a person who has the Force to use, but he uses it as the Force being one with, not as someone who has the Force to use per se. So it's a really interesting character. I think it's interesting to put out there. I kind of liked him. I thought it was really unique. I like that he was always paired with the other guy too. I can't remember what his name was, but
I need to watch it again. That's definitely on my little watch
yeah,
list. So
it was really cool. I loved Rogue One, and he was one of my favorite characters in
I
that
remember
particular
liking
movie.
it. I don't remember a whole lot about it. I think it's actually because I watched it like with my ex boyfriend. So I don't know. I maybe just have blocked that memory of it. So I don't know. But I remember
Yeah.
liking it. I just don't remember a whole lot about it.
So let's ask the really big question here: is the Sith really that bad?
um, I think. See, I think personally, I think they're often portrayed as bad. I mean, if you really think about it, or honestly, if you just watch the original trilogy, it's the classic story, good versus evil. Obviously Luke Skywalker, he's the good guy. He's got the blue and green lightsaber, and Darth Vader and Darth Sidious, they've got the red. They're all dressed in black. It's just that obvious, you know, kind of like night and day difference. But I feel like it's a lot better, I guess, explained or portrayed in episodes 1, 2, and 3, and actually, um, so far 7, 8, and eventually 9. I'm assuming that like they're not really necessarily all that bad. It's just assumed to be that way, I guess, from your point of view, as say, like, I guess with the Republic and whatnot, and like the rebels, and especially, they're like, oh, these guys are immediately bad, but like, are they really that bad though? Are
I, I
they really?
and the interesting thing too, and it always comes to like the Sith, and it's always like it's always someone who's associated with like an army, and that army always wants to overtake a world, and then of
Mm-hmm.
course like the universe, and then they want to like be in control of it. But then what? So if you're in control of it, then what happens? What's the end game at this point? What are you gonna do when that's done? I mean, are you just gonna like drop and lay over and just be dead and be done with it? Like, what's the point? Like, what's next?
Yeah,
That's what I want to know.
I
So,
agree. I mean, I will say a lot of the aspects in, especially in Order 66, like that, I don't think that was all at all called for. But I mean, I guess with the very firm ideologies of the Jedi, they're like, we must destroy the Sith. And with the Sith being, we must destroy the Jedi, it's like there really was no, there was no, like, I guess, talking about it. There was just no debate about it. It was just like, hey, we gotta
well,
get each other.
it's because it's like, well, even if they didn't exist, there were still these other people out there that could have just as easily built an army
Absolutely.
without them. Like, for instance, the rebels. They didn't need
Yeah.
the Jedi forces. They could have
No.
just had their own battle,
Yep,
which they kind of
absolutely.
did.
They did.
Yeah, they did. So it's just, if you think about it, it's like, huh, okay,
Right. I mean,
interesting.
the rebels kind of had their own thing going on, and I don't think actually, I'm gonna get this wrong, I know it, but I guess from what I saw, I don't see the rebels really being a part of like the old Republic and whatnot, because those were more like leaning more towards like the Jedi ideals. The rebels had their own thing going on. They're completely
Yeah.
different. They're like, we're kind of on the same team here, but not really. So, I mean, they just kind of like, oh, cool. Now we have a Jedi on our side. So, yay us, like +1. But I don't know. It just, I don't know. They're kind of shitty too. Everybody's just
Yeah.
crappy in their own right. So the Jedi are kind of messed up because I don't like that they take young children and brainwash them. That's messed up, and don't allow you, to have feelings.
It's kind of stupid.
It is kind of dumb, but
It's really stupid.
oh well. I mean, I guess if you had like I know you have like a choice to go into the armed forces, but there was a point in time where you did not have a choice. Like you reached a certain age, boom, you're going to the army. Because I mean, I guess the what is it called, like call to arms or whatever? I don't know, something like that. I'm botching it.
So, what is the Force? That's the big question.
I thought the Sith are bad. I thought that was the big question.
What?
You're just the way you worded the other question. You're like, this is the big question, but it's Sith really bad? And you're like, here's
Well, that's one of the big questions.
I know.
Here's the other big question: the Force. There's so many big questions.
Force? So as I found on the interwebs, because they explain it, but I don't know. It's a lot better when you
They explain it. It's explained in Phantom Menace very briefly.
It is explained very briefly. I feel like it's explained a little bit better actually when Luke mentions it in the film that I'm watching now. So whatever the hell it's called, Last Jedi. He does explain it a little bit when he's like talking to Rey about it, because it is basically just a field of energy that connects everything in the universe. So everything from like the flow of water, just trees, the rocks that or ground that you stand on. Basically, it's just all of the energy and vibrations that flow through that, and also through you. So it's basically just channeling that and using it. It's basically what it is. Apparently, it actually has various names throughout the galactic whatever.
Interesting.
I wasn't gonna name them all because there was like 50 of them. So because I guess different species and like planets will call them, called the Force, different things. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
So along with the Force, there's also something that's really not talked about in the Star Wars films, and if it is, it's kind of just maybe brought up once or twice. It's the kyber crystals. Do you want to talk about that real quick?
Absolutely. So I do know that it was lightly mentioned in Rogue One, and I know that we briefly said this earlier on in this episode, but kyber crystals were briefly mentioned in Rogue One. That's the only one in like film that it's actually said, hey, this is what they are, and this is what, is inside of a lightsaber. That's what it's how the lightsaber gets its power and its color. Kyber crystals, supposedly, like in the lore, young Jedi would go to a special cave on this planet. Forgive me, I don't remember the exact name of it, but they would go and they would actually find their crystal, or rather their crystal finds them. So it's kind of like in the same aspect. You go to Ollivanders, your wand chooses you. So you go to this cave and this crystal chooses you.
Basically, that's awesome.
I know, it's kind of like what that's saying. So they go to, it's kind of like a rite of passage thing too, because like when they get their kyber crystals, then they get to construct and build their own lightsaber, like from that crystal. So I'm gonna burp, maybe not. Okay, pickle that part out. Sorry, I thought it was gonna come out like roaring and it didn't. Anyway, so but yeah, kyber crystals, they kind of have their own, like the power like of their own. Red ones actually were not a naturally made thing. The natural ones are usually like your blues, your greens, your yellows and whatnot. So like a lot of like your more cooler tones, like, with like the exception of like yellow and like purple too. Purple is I think
Samuel Jackson, man.
Yeah, Samuel Jackson
has to rock a purple lightsaber. It just has to be.
Well, see, he wanted to do a red one, but they were like, no, that's the Sith. You can't have a red one. He's like, well, can I have a purple one? And I actually watched something earlier, and they're like, yeah, we can maybe do that. So he honestly is probably the only one that has a freaking purple lightsaber. But
really,
I think he's the only like characters so, like that I know of that has a purple one. If there's another one out there, I'm sorry, I just haven't. I don't know. As far as I know, he's the only one. But anyway, so kyber crystals, you go and you to this cave, and you get your kyber crystal, and then you construct your lightsaber. Now, Palpatine actually learned how to create his own like versions of kyber crystals. So they're basically synthetic crystals. And I was reading on a little bit of like the lore and whatnot, because if you notice, Luke actually goes from a blue lightsaber to a green one. And it is mentioned that Palpatine actually says, "Oh, you have constructed your own lightsaber," because he did. So he actually didn't. I was reading, like I said, I was reading in the lore, whether it's true or not. I mean, maybe, but this is what I read. So what had happened is that Luke had taken a synthetic kyber crystal, and what Palpatine was doing is because like he would put all of his force and energy into like hate and anger and like fear and whatnot. He would put that all into a crystal and it would turn red. So, and
Oh.
that's where the red lightsabers come into. Now, what Luke had to do, because he didn't know the location of, where to get lightsaber, kyber crystals and whatnot, he actually took a synthetic crystal and put all of the good and light force into that crystal, and then it changed from red to green. And that's why he has a green lightsaber in the sixth film.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it
Huh.
is, like I said, it's not, kyber crystals are not mentioned in the core films except in like Rogue One. They are mentioned in Clone Wars. And they're also, if you go to Disney and you go to I think it's called Savvy's Workshop. That's like it's a section in like the Star Wars part of the theme park. You can actually make your own lightsaber, and they do give you kyber crystals, and they give you like an option to choose from like any of the colors that were available. So you can choose a blue one or green one, a red one, a yellow one, like a purple one if you want to. But they give you kyber crystals to put into your lightsaber that you can actually construct yourself. I watched an entire video on it on YouTube, and I was
That's
like,
so cool.
oh, I want to do it, but like to get one lightsaber and like build it yourself and whatnot, it's like $217.
Oh,
I mean,
so much
it
money.
is, but I mean, you do get that entire experience. You do get to build your own lightsaber, pick out your own kyber crystal, keep the lightsaber, and you get I guess you get a cool like case to put it in too. So I mean, I guess it's worth it? Question mark.
Yeah,
I mean, I
I can see it.
personally wouldn't. I wouldn't like go sparring with anybody with it because it's probably not that durable. I mean, if you really want to go spar, with lightsabers, just get it from a better site. Just be aware, if you want something that's going to be durable and look cool and light up and have sounds and stuff like that, you're going to spend a pretty dollar. So, but not all of them will have like little cool kyber crystals in them, but just know that the Disney ones, they do.
Personally, for me, if I were someone that uses the Force and I had kyber crystals, I would not build a lightsaber. I would build a gun. Okay. Or it would be like a dagger or something that had like rope on it, and I would like shoot it out and bring it back, or be like a boomerang,
Oh, that would be cool. A boomerang lightsaber.
or something. It would just be like, it wouldn't be a sword, because let's be honest. I mean, come on, okay, Jedi or Sith, whatever. The one weapon they have besides the Force is a freaking sword. Really? Like nothing else? Like you've got like no cool side gadgets, no grappling hooks or
That would be
anything?
really cool. A freaking lightsaber like whip, like just have a long energy of just like a whip.
Yes, that would be
That would be
legit.
that would be so dangerous. Oh
That would
my
be
god,
so cool.
that would be
Or
cool.
like, I thought would be kind of cool. Like, what's his face? I can't think of what his name is, but he's like I think it was in Clone Wars. He had like he had like 8 lightsabers, and he would like spin them around.
General Grievous. Oh, I love
Yeah.
him.
So he was the reason that kind of like spawned my interest. I'm like, what if you had laser, or what if you had like lightsabers on your fingertips?
just,
Like,
just
and you like
I'm
went into
going to get
battle like
a
that. You
manicure and
know?
be like, oh, get my foot.
Oh, I broke a nail. I can't fight today. God, God. What are we going to do? Sorry, guys. We're going to have to can we make an appointment for next week and we can fight then? Thanks.
Perfect. That's great.
Right? It would have to be something like that.
Oh my God.
It would have to be something, ridiculously gay or whatever. But like, I would not be able to hold a sword. And like, but other fighting forms, it just seems to be like they do a lot of like maybe some kicks here and there, but you see like in a lot of different types of movies and sci-fi, a lot of like karate and jujitsu is used, but very little of it is used in Star Wars, which you would think would be used a lot, seeing that
Mhm.
it's a fight scene. I just kind of thought, oh, there's a lot of opportunity here, and you're not even doing that. What a bummer.
That's true.
Okay, so, so in the future, just saying, guys out there, if I were a Jedi, I'm not coming at you with a lightsaber. I will shoot you with my gun. Just saying. Or my boomerang. You're not going to see it coming. You're just going to be like, what the fuck? Where did that come from?
You just like, I want to get you, and you like just wing the boomerang like behind you, and they're like, wait a second, just wait. There it is. It just clocks him upside the head.
Like, wait, where's your sword? I don't fight with a sword. Who fights with a sword? Swords are lame. Come on. And then the other guy just like looks down, and then I throw my boomerang, and his head like slices off, and I win.
That would be cool. Just write a whole fanfic.
Right. But to end our show, we have one key question. I know we already said this is the big question, but this is like the astronomical universal question here, because it's the most controversial question in the Star Wars universe.
It is.
Who shot first? That's the bigger question. We asked people on Twitter who shot first. Crap, I think I closed it. Damn
I'll
it, let
look
me
at
go
it.
pull
I
it back
think
open.
I have it.
So I decided to put a poll up real quick right as we were while we were recording this. And I put 3 options on there. I put Han Solo, Greedo, or both. And then someone commented and put a droid, but then they kind of made a point that like, well, at the very beginning of Phantom Menace, it was actually a droid that shot first in the movie. So kudos to you for taking it outside of the box. One thing I've always thought is that they never show anyone outside of the scene. So someone could have easily shot Han Solo or Greedo from outside of the scene. And even though it may have looked like Han or Solo might have Han Solo or Greedo would have shot, it could have been a total like weirdo from the bar. So, so that's the question. What does the poll say?
What if it was the bartender?
Yeah, for real. Like, you guys never pay your bill. I'm going to shoot you. Jeez.
Like, man, there's too much drama in this place. Bam, done.
Ugh. God, I hate those furries. I'm just going to take out a burrito.
God. But the polls say 78.9% say Han Solo shot first, 10.5% say Greedo shot first, and also actually it's tied for both shot first.
Ironically, because of the way that the poll is the results, the way the poll looks like right now, it kind of looks like a penis. I'm not gonna lie.
I was gonna say that. No, it's a lightsaber.
The Greedo is at 10.5%, so you got one ball. Han Solo's the penis, and then both is the other ball. So it's just.
I mean, Han Solo is a dick, so.
Yeah, there you go. All right, folks. Well, that's the end of our show. I hope you guys are having a great day. We'll see you guys in season 7. We do have a fun-packed season for that. June is all Pride Month, so we do have Pride episodes.
I can't wait.
It's going to be fun. And if you guys have anything you want to share with us, you know where to reach us on Twitter from the Muzzle. And then, of course, you can always email us at talktothemuzzle@gmail.com. And you can also reach out to us on our Telegram as well. Anything you would like to say before we go?
I'm going to say one thing. May the Force be with you.
Lame. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. That's cool. Lame. All right, guys. Have a good day. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.